We the people want answers. We the people are sick of this shit.
My videos don't necessarily promote one religion. My views and opinions aren't meant to change the minds, opinions, or beliefs of others. Watch with an open mind. Copyright disclaimer under Section 107 of the Copyright Act of 1976. Allowances made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, education, entertainment, and research. Fair use is a use permitted by copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing. All rights and credit go directly to its rightful owners. No copyright infringement is intended. We continue to uncover the profound wisdom within the timeless scriptures. Take care, and God bless.
Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. This is part 7 of our Bill of Rights series, where we take a look at each of the amendments in the Bill of Rights, which makes up the first 10 amendments to the U.S. Constitution. In this installment, we'll be looking at the 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, and 10th Amendments, as well as the 11th and 12th Amendments. As always, if you want to grab some fun, nerdy Constitution-themed merch, check out our store. And let's get started. 5th Amendment. No individual shall be required to answer for a capital or otherwise infamous crime unless a grand jury in some states, except in cases involving the land or naval forces or the militia when actually in service in time of war or public stores. No person shall be tried twice for the same offense which shall endanger life or limb. No one shall be compelled in any criminal case to be a witness against himself. No person shall be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, nor shall private property be taken for public use without just compensation. This amendment protects many fundamental rights. First, it guarantees that no one will be prosecuted for a serious crime unless a grand jury decides there is enough evidence to charge them with that crime. This prevents the government from bringing politically motivated charges against an individual without sufficient evidence. It also bars double jeopardy, meaning that once a person has been acquitted or convicted of a crime, they cannot be prosecuted again for the same crime. Next, it includes the right against self-incrimination, which means that defendants cannot be forced to testify against themselves. This protects innocent people from being falsely convicted because they refuse to incriminate themselves. It also prevents defendants who may be trying to protect someone else from being wrongfully convicted from being coerced into providing damaging testimony about someone else. Then the amendment addresses due process of law, guaranteeing that no person will be deprived of life, liberty, or property without fair legal procedures. Finally, it prohibits the taking of private property for public use without just compensation, ensuring that the government does not exploit its power to take private property for any reason. 6th Amendment. In all criminal prosecutions, the accused shall enjoy the right to have the assistance of counsel for his defense, to be informed of the nature and cause of the accusation, to confront the witnesses against him, to have compulsory process for obtaining witnesses in his favor, and to have the right to testify in his own behalf, and with these rights, to have the benefit of all others which the states may provide. This amendment ensures fair treatment in criminal cases by guaranteeing several important rights to defendants. First, it provides for the assistance of counsel, which means that defendants have the right to hire or be appointed an attorney to represent them. This is essential because navigating the criminal justice system is complex, and having proper legal representation is crucial to protect the defendant's rights and interests. Second, defendants have the right to be informed of the charges against them. This ensures that they know what they are accused of so they can prepare their defense. Third, defendants have the right to confront witnesses against them. This allows them to cross-examine witnesses and challenge the evidence presented by the prosecution. Fourth, defendants have compulsory process for obtaining witnesses in their favor. This means that they can compel the attendance of witnesses who can provide testimony beneficial to their case. Lastly, defendants have the right to testify in their own behalf. This ensures that defendants are not prevented from presenting their version of events to the jury. 7th Amendment. In suits at common law where the value in controversy shall exceed $20, The right of trial by jury shall remain, and no fact tried by a jury shall be otherwise re-examined in any court of the United States than according to the rules of the common law. The Seventh Amendment guarantees the right to a jury trial in civil cases. It applies to lawsuits based on common law principles where the amount in dispute is more than $20. Under this amendment, if a party wants a jury to decide a case, both parties must agree to it. If only one party requests a jury trial, then the court may either conduct the trial without a jury or allow the requesting party to introduce their claims to a jury. The amendment also prohibits federal courts from re-examining the facts of a case decided by a jury unless it involves a common law rule of evidence. Eighth Amendment. Excessive bail shall not be required, nor excessive fines imposed, nor cruel and unusual punishments inflicted. The Eighth Amendment prohibits the government from imposing excessive bail, excessive fines, or cruel and unusual punishments. Excessive bail refers to amounts that are so high that they effectively prevent a person from being released before trial. This practice is considered unconstitutional because it does not serve a legitimate purpose, such as ensuring the defendant's appearance at trial or protecting the safety of the community. Excessive fines are also prohibited because they are seen as a form of punishment rather than a way to compensate the government for the harm caused by the defendant's actions. Additionally, the amendment bars cruel and unusual punishments, which include punishments that are either gratuitously cruel or are not significantly related to the crime committed. Ninth Amendment. The enumeration in the Constitution of certain rights shall not be construed to deny or disparage others retained by the people. The Ninth Amendment clarifies that the list of rights in the Constitution is not exhaustive. Just because a right is not specifically mentioned in the Constitution does not mean that the government can infringe upon it. This amendment recognizes that there may be other rights that are not explicitly stated but are still protected. It emphasizes that any governmental action that violates these unenumerated rights would be unconstitutional. By including the Ninth Amendment, the framers intended to ensure that the government could not use the absence of a specific right in the Constitution as justification for restricting or infringing upon it. This amendment serves as a reminder that individuals have rights beyond those explicitly outlined in the Constitution, and that these rights are not granted by the government, but are inherent to all people. 10th Amendment. The powers not granted to the United States in the Constitution, nor prohibited by it to the states, are reserved to the states respectively or to the people. The 10th Amendment defines the division of powers between the federal and state governments. It establishes that any powers not specifically granted to the federal government in the Constitution are reserved for the states and the people. In simpler terms, this means that the states have the authority to make their own laws and govern their own affairs, as long as those powers are not specifically given to the federal government in the Constitution. For example, education is not a power granted to the federal government in the Constitution. Therefore, the 10th Amendment reserves this power to the states and the people. States have the freedom to establish their own educational systems and set standards for schools within their borders. However, if the federal government passes a law that directly relates to education, states must comply because the federal government has the ultimate authority. 11th Amendment. Neither the United States nor any state without the consent of the Congress shall be sued by a citizen of another state or a foreign state. The 11th Amendment limits the jurisdiction of federal courts by prohibiting lawsuits against states by citizens of other states or foreign states. The amendment clarifies that a lawsuit against a state by a citizen of another state or a foreign state is not justiciable, meaning that federal courts do not have jurisdiction to hear such cases. To sue a state, a citizen of another state must first obtain the consent of Congress. This provision aims to prevent forum shopping, which occurs when a plaintiff intentionally brings a lawsuit in a court that is most favorable to them. By limiting lawsuits against states, the 11th Amendment promotes federalism and prevents federal courts from encroaching on state sovereignty. 12th Amendment. The electors shall meet in their respective states and territories and vote by ballot for President and Vice President of the United States. They shall record on 2 separate ballots the name of the person voted for as President and the name of the person voted for as Vice President. And in the second column, the names of the candidates having the greatest number of votes for President and Vice President respectively, and the number of votes for each, which shall be certified by the seal of the state or territory and returned to the seat of the United States government in the District of Columbia. The President of the Senate shall open all the certificates in the presence of the Senate and House of Representatives, and the votes shall be counted. The candidate receiving the greatest number of votes for President and Vice President shall be declared duly elected President and Vice President, provided that a majority of the votes of the electors appointed to vote for electors shall be required to choose a President and Vice President. But if no person receive a majority of the votes of the electors for President, the House of Representatives shall choose the President from the persons having the highest numbers of votes, and in choosing a President, the votes shall be taken by states, the representation from each state having 1 vote, if a member of the House from such state be not paired for either of said candidates. If 2 or more candidates for President have an equal number of votes, the House of Representatives shall have power to choose among them. But in case of a tie for Vice President, the Senate shall have the power to make the decision. Now let me know in the comments, do you think the Electoral College should be abolished? Why or why not? Also, let me know down below which amendment is your favorite. Thank you so much for watching and subscribing. We love you guys so much, and we hope you learned something new. See you next time.
Thank you all for watching this here video.